Hey YouTube, what's up? Um, just thought I would make a quick little video of, my collection of earrings, plugs, whatever you want to call them, and a couple of tips that helped me along the way with stretching my ears from regular earring size to 4 gauge. Okay, so let's get right into it. I guess I'll just show you the plugs first. Okay, so 10 gauge, my little black pinchers here, and little white plugs. 8 gauge, just these little circular, I don't know, rings, I guess. Got them, I don't remember where I got them. These little black pinchers, half pinchers actually. I have 4 of them actually, and I'll show you where the other 2 are in a bit. 2 ultraviolet acrylic 6 gauge tapers, a set of clear silicone plugs, and just regular yellow and red 6 gauge silicone plugs. Okay, going to 4G, 4 gauge, just regular gray, squishy silicone tunnels, but they don't have the little flared ends, so I had to put O-rings on them. A 4 gauge taper, just clear acrylic, and 4 gauge acrylic blue tunnels, and then 2 gauge steel tunnel. The reason I have 1 is because a friend of mine recently just stopped stretching his ears, and he had a lot of shit to give away, so he just decided, I could have it, and whatever, a free 2 gauge tunnel might come in handy. You might be able to give it to a friend. Alright. Get this situated again. Fuck, stay still. Alright. So, now, what I'm going to be going over is tips for stretching. Okay, I went straight from regular earring size to a 10 gauge, and didn't hurt that bad, but it would have hurt a lot less if I had have used some kind of like holy butter or whatever just to help it out, slide through. Didn't hurt that bad though, took maybe like a couple of days to heal. Going from 10 gauge to 4 gauge, used a taper, used some glass tapers actually. I gave those away though to a friend who was just starting stretching his ears. 6 gauge, 8 gauge to 6 gauge is whenever I started using this. This is Astroglide personal lubricant. Now it actually has other purposes what people buy it for, okay? Now just don't get the idea that I purposely bought this just because I heard that it was a good thing to stretch your ears with. It's water based, it won't get them all infected or gunked up or anything like that, and it washes right away off your hands or whatever, and so that just worked well. So I would recommend that. Going from 8 gauge to 6 gauge is when I started using that, because I tried so hard to get the 6 gauge taper through the 8 gauge, but it just wouldn't budge, and it hurt, and it stung like crazy, so I just couldn't bear it. I would let it heal up and try again, but every single time I failed. So then I just got a little bit of that off of a friend and just put like a little tiny drop, smothered it around the taper, went right through, still hurt, but not quite as bad, and then just fed the plug through, did the same thing on the outside 3 days later. The outside hurt a lot worse than the inside did, I can tell you that. Okay, 6 gauge to 4 gauge. I only bought 1 taper, so I had to put the plugs in immediately. Went from 6 gauge to 4 gauge with the clear acrylic taper, and immediately, like 20 minutes after stretching, put in these. Okay, and I did not use any of my Astroglide for the inside holes. because I was riding in the car and I just wanted to go ahead and get it over with or whatever. I'd just gotten them, just wanted to go ahead and put them in, get it over with, whatever. Couldn't wait till I got home. I wish I hadn't done that though, because it hurt like crazy. Then once I got back, I put some lubricant on the taper and it just slid right through with no pain whatsoever. Then put the other plugs in there, then 2 gauge. As I told you, I'm not up to a 2 gauge yet. That's just a little piece that I have. Okay, real quick, I can show you, just what I have in right here. These are actually, the white and black are silicone 6 gauge tunnels, but this is an 8 gauge. Both of these, the black one and the silver one, are 8 gauge, but I just fed it through the little hole and it stretched out a little bit because the silicone is stretchy and flexible. And plus, I just think it looks pretty sweet, and now I have more options when it comes to 8 gauge, or 4 gauge actually. Fuck, what am I talking about? Okay, another thing, last thing I will go over is, as you saw on this green acrylic taper, is bondage tape. You can use bondage tape or electrical tape, but what it is if you don't have the cash, or you do have the cash but just can't go out and get some more plugs right away or some new tapers, but you really want to stretch your ears, just wrap a little bit of this around there and it increases the size, won't mess up your ears or anything like that, just until you can go get some real plugs. So that helps. That's about it, but if you do decide to use bondage tape or electrical tape, you don't have to use them to make it bigger. You can just, decide if you want to color up your gauges or plugs. I don't like it when people call them gauges. I don't know why I just did that. But anyways, if you want to spruce up your plugs or tapers or whatever you might happen to have in your ears, you want to make them different color on the inside or something like that, wrap a little colored bondage tape or electrical tape around there, it'll fix them right up. I would highly recommend though using some of the Astroglide, or if you have some Holy Butter or something like that. Whenever you do, if you do use bondage tape or electrical tape, I would highly recommend using the Astroglide or Holy Butter, just because it just makes it a whole lot easier. There's more resistance with the electrical tape or bondage tape. That's about it though. I hope I helped out. If I didn't, I'm sorry. So, peace out.